BBC News with Sue Montgomery. President Joe Biden and the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have agreed that maximum vigilance is needed over what they described as the extremely serious situation in Ukraine. After a telephone call between the two leaders, a statement said they welcomed President Putin's call for diplomatic efforts to continue, but said there was still a risk of further Russian military aggression. They said there had been no significant withdrawal of Russian troops. Earlier, the White House spokeswoman, Jen Psaki, said it was possible Moscow could publish false narratives as a pretext for an attack.
There's, what Russia says, and there's what Russia does, and we're watching very closely what steps they're taking, but they remain amassed in a threatening way at the border. We're in the window where we believe an attack could come at any time, and that would be preceded by a fabricated pretext that the Russians use as an excuse to launch an invasion, and we've seen these tactics used in the past.
Landslides and flooding in the Brazilian city of Petrópolis have killed more than 70 people after a storm dumped nearly a month's worth of rain in a matter of hours. Hundreds of soldiers and firefighters have been mobilised to search for survivors. Katie Watson reports.
The governor of the state of Rio de Janeiro, Claudio Castro, said these were the most intense rains since 1932, and Mr. Castro likened the situation to a war zone. One resident filmed mud crashing down the hill above the city, wiping out everything in its path. Other footage showed cars being swept down the street. Lorries and diggers have been drafted in to help shift the mud and search for survivors, while 2,000 people have been enlisted to help clear the roads to allow vehicles to pass.
Court documents unsealed in the United States have revealed that a close ally of the Venezuelan president has been cooperating with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration for nearly a year. Alex Saab was extradited to the U.S. in October. Will Leonardo reports.
Alex Saab has been described by American officials as a major conduit for corruption in President Nicolás Maduro's Venezuela, helping the country to circumvent US sanctions. But today's documents show that in fact he'd worked with US investigators between 2018 and 2019, providing information on bribes given to Venezuelan officials. He was made to forfeit a personal fortune of almost $10 million by becoming an informant. After failing to meet a deadline to surrender himself, however, he was charged in Miami for money laundering and arrested in Cape Verde in 2020.
The French President Emmanuel Macron is hosting African leaders in Paris before an expected announcement that French troops will withdraw from Mali. Élysée officials say it's become impossible for France to continue its anti-insurgency deployment in Mali because of growing hostility from the military authorities. BBC News. Rescue officials in Canada say they've finished their search for survivors after a Spanish fishing trawler sank off Newfoundland on Tuesday. 21 of the 24 crew were lost. 10 bodies were recovered. 3 survivors were picked up from life rafts. The Foreign Minister of Qatar has said he cannot be confident that funds given to the Taliban authorities in Afghanistan will not end up in the hands of terrorist groups. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani was speaking 6 months after the Taliban returned to power. Frank Gardner reports.
The Gulf state of Qatar has emerged as perhaps the leading conduit for relations between the Taliban government in Afghanistan and the rest of the world. Qatar currently represents US interests in Afghanistan. When asked if he could be confident that any future funds given to the Taliban would not end up in the hands of terrorist groups, Qatar's foreign minister said this was a question the world did not yet have an answer to. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani told an audience at Chatham House that Qatar was working flat out, along with its international partners, to persuade the Taliban to rule fairly and not to undo what he called the gains of the last 20 years.
New research into the use of tools by orangutans has revealed they instinctively use hammers for striking objects and sharp stones for cutting. When presented with a sharpened stone, 2 young males at a Norwegian zoo sliced open a box to reach the food inside. The findings suggest the ability to make and use tools may have existed in the common ancestor of humans and orangutans up to 13 million years ago. The top prize at the Berlin Film Festival has been won by the Spanish director Carla Simon's semi-autobiographical drama Alcaraz about a family of peach farmers. It's the 3rd major European film festival in a row to award its top prize to a woman director. BBC News. BBC